Rashee Rice is officially suspended for the first 6 games of the season. We discuss the fantasy impact that will have on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, plus dig into more of the news across the NFL on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Today, we have a lot of news to get through. I mean, news has just been cranking out in this fantasy world of ours that just keeps impacting how we're going to draft and how our fantasy season can, shape up with some of these players if we were to draft them. And Rashee Rice, there was some confusion around when we'll know about his suspension. Like just about a week ago, they were saying that he was going to start the season and then maybe a suspension would be dropped midway. But instead, he decided to just accept the full 6-game suspension, and he'll officially miss weeks 1 through 6 this year. Now, with that, they have a really tough schedule from weeks 1 through 6. It's the Chargers, the Eagles. They have an easy game against the Giants, but then the Ravens, the Jaguars, and the Lions. So this is a big, important first 6 games for him to miss.
Yeah, and it's really hard because when you look at it, if you dive deeper, I mean, it's 6 weeks of an 18-game season, but when we compress fantasy regular season and look at fantasy playoffs, it's a very limited window where you'll have Rashee Rice available to you in the lineup. So it's very hard. These situations are very tricky, right? We saw TJ Hawkinson, different situation, injury, and had to wait for him to come back. Usually you're not going to get the return that you're looking for, right? I mean, simply won't. I mean, first of all, he missed last year, most of it with an injury, so he had to recover from that. You figure he's going to be rather rusty when he gets back to play. They probably have to, quote, ease him in there a little bit, right? You would think. I mean, he'll stay in game shape, but it won't be the same, right, if he's not out there playing games. And then the other thing is you look at, hey, they got to move on. I mean, it's another bad break for Patrick Mahomes. He just can't seem to have everything lined up at receiver or offensive line the way he wants. And that's been some big factors in limiting what he can do, right? I mean, they've had to make some sacrifices. Their tackles haven't been good. They've had to really work to find some receivers and put them all together here. Kelce is getting older, so it's really tough for Mahomes. Look, I think Mahomes could overcome all this, and maybe he could finish with the QB6, but we're not counting on it right now. I think this definitely bumps him down from there. I mean, you lose a key weapon all over the field. Maybe we'll see a Juju Smith-Schuster or somebody come back to fill this big slot void that they're going to have without Rice. So that's a guy that can score, and that's a big element gone. For Xavier Worthy, I mean, he's a speedy guy. He's going to make a lot of big plays, and I think you do bump him. Right now they were going pretty even as wide receiver 3s, but now Worthy should bump up. Look, where we saw Rice, he was going right at the 9th, 8th round right there in a lot of situations in 12-team leagues. So I think he's going to go probably like 12 to 14 now. I think someone will still take a shot on him, but you definitely feel a lot better about taking Worthy a little bit earlier because, again, he's going to have to see a lot of key targets on this team with Kelce, and you also feel confident because of the Super Bowl he had.
Yeah, I will say with Mahomes, it is worrisome because last year we already saw him have career lows, I should say, in passing touchdowns with just 26, 145.5 passing yards per game, career low, 6.8 pass yards per attempt, also career low. And just really, it's not just a career low for him. That's really, really low for any quarterback in the league. And he was also sacked a career high 36 times. So definitely already last year, we saw him struggling without Rashee Rice on the field. And right now, according to ourlads.com that does all the depth charts, they have Nico Remigio as the starting slot wide receiver for the Chiefs. I mean, yeah, he made some exciting return plays last year, But this guy was undrafted 2 years ago, has been on the Chiefs for 2 years, and he has 6 career targets, 2 career receptions. That's it. And they're going to trust him to step in and be a starter. That seems really, really scary. So with Travis Kelce getting older, with him just having Xavier Worthy and like Hollywood Brown's another starter, and he did nothing for this team last year. Maybe a year removed from the injury, he'll be a little bit better. But I am worried about Mahomes. We were already worried. I already had him outside my top 10 quarterback rankings, but now this just pushes him down further. And you brought up Kelce and Worthy. I think for both of these guys, it will definitely help them for the first 6 weeks of the season, because last year, weeks 1 through 3, when Rice is on the field, Rice had 29 targets over those 3 games. Well, Kelce had 12, Worthy had 11. Right there, Kelce was averaging 4 targets per game, Worthy 3.7. Then once Rice goes down, the rest of the year, Kelce averages 9.3 targets per game, so more than doubles. And then Worthy was averaging 6.2 targets per game. And Kelce's receiving yards doubled. The touchdowns still weren't coming really, but that's the only thing missing with Kelce. He needs to start to get those touchdowns back. But I do think over the first 6 weeks, we're going to see Kelce and Worthy provide a lot of good fantasy games for us.
Yeah, and Travis Kelce is, by the way, going around tight end 7, 6, right next to Mark Andrews. I think I'd definitely be more interested in Kelce than Andrews, given this news. I mean, Andrews is a little bit older. Isaiah Likely seems to have a little bit of positive news on that front. The Ravens have, strangely, a lot more depth and mouths to feed now that actually are viable in their offense than the Chiefs do at this point. So, again, we'll see if Hollywood Brown, the former Raven, can hold up there. But, again, we saw he couldn't stay on the field last year. So I think this is going to be a lot of opportunity that could open up here in this offense, but they've done it by committee when it's not Travis Kelce and one receiver. So again, this bumps up Kelce a little bit. I think Kelce and Hawkinson is a very interesting thing, and that'll come up here as we break a little other piece of news down for you later in the show. But again, I would take Kelce. I would think about it more as the tight end 5 on the board, as high as that. Again, after the big 4 are gone, I think it's a little bit more wide open with some of those veterans. But Worthy, to me, again, I really liked him above the cost of a middle road wide receiver 3. I kind of like him now as a borderline wide receiver 2. I think that's how good he can be. He showed us that on the field. So I think that momentum can definitely help, because just like that, right? We saw Rashee Rice in the playoffs. We were excited about him, got him last year. It was all trending right. Then the injury happened. So I think similar thing you could develop here with Worthy.
Now, obviously right now, Rice's ADP is still at 61. That will end up dropping, right? 5th, 6th round.
Yeah.
But that will end up dropping big time. But how far should he be dropping? Like, once you get to the 9th, 10th round, that's where like the Cooper Kupps are going, and the Chris Godwins that can miss time, and Juwan Jennings, who's dealing with a calf injury, and Khalil Shakir, who is just a volume-based guy, but like doesn't really get it done, and Jayden Reed, who's been a big disappointment. So like, is that kind of the range where you're like, okay, I'll just take Rashee Rice? It stinks though, because it's not an injury, it's a suspension. So most leagues, unless your settings allow you to have a guy that's suspended in your IR spot, you're going to have to use that bench spot on Rashee Rice. Well, if you take an injured guy like a Chris Godwin or a Juwan Jennings or a Jayden Reed, and they miss time due to injury, you could place them on IR, so you wouldn't have to use a spot. But how far does Rashee Rice have to drop for you to consider drafting him?
It's going to be pretty far. I just don't like this. Like, I don't want to try to figure out, what he's going to do when he's available. Like, what I may do, if you're looking at a team, I would make sure I have a comfortable starting lineup. And maybe I'm a little bit weak at the 3rd wide receiver, and then I stash Rashee Rice. But I would want to not just draft him as my wide receiver 3. I think that would be a mistake. Make sure you have your starting lineup, even your tight end, there before you think about getting Rice. Because, again, he's not going to be available to you till week 7. Things change week to week in this league. So a lot of things could happen where another wide receiver could become a little bit more valuable for the stretch run. So, again, I just don't like to deal with it. It's just too confusing for me, where I'm wasting a roster spot on a player that I simply cannot use, right? I can't, if one of my guys get hurt, I can't plug in Rashee Rice over the first 6 weeks, or have to deal with a bye week issue or anything like that. So he's kind of just a useless player unless you have that suspension spot. So again, I'd be careful with him. I had Hawkinson in an IR spot last year. That's a lot different, right? So just be careful. again, take him once you get to that Khalil Shakir range where they don't have a lot of upside and you need a wide receiver 4 or 5. I think that's okay to pull the trigger, but don't get too smart and try to take him as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah. Now we have a lot more news to get through. The Saints finally picked their starting quarterback for week 1. And oh God, it's going to be gross. Adam Thielen gets traded back to the Vikings, and a lot more news plus injury updates that we'll get through throughout the rest of today's show. But let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the game. It's very simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. And for the first weekend of football, Prize Picks is offering a major max discount on Dak Prescott for that opening game. He just needs more than a half of a passing yard. So he throws for 1 passing yard, and you already have one of your player stat projections correct towards your 2 to 6 or however many you want to put in your lineup. Prize Picks always puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. Before I get into more of the news, I have an important request for you. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've been putting together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Anyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you again for helping us out. All right, let's get to more of the news. We got Spencer Rattler winning the starting job for the Saints. Now, don't get me wrong. Either guy they chose, it wasn't going to be super exciting. But you did have a little bit of hope that their second-round rookie they took, in Tyler Shough, could at least beat out Spencer Rattler and maybe give us a glimmer of hope that the Saints offense could be something this year. But the fact that Tyler Shough, who is not a young guy, it's not like he's coming in super raw. He played 7 years of college football. He's turning 26 years old in September. He's older than guys like Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud. Like, he's old. He should have, if he was going to beat out Spencer Rattler, he was already going to do it. But Rattler last year started 6 games, went 0-6, had 4 passing touchdowns over those 6 starts, 5 interceptions. What do you think about this, Vinny?
Well, this is another second-year quarterback starting. I'll just say that. We have Caleb Williams, we have Jaden Daniels, we have Bo Nix, we have J.D. McCarthy, we have Michael Penix, we have Drake May. It's all over the board. All these guys are starting. So, again, that is a deal here that we're looking at. A lot of guys with limited experience. I mean, Spencer Rattler is probably the unlikeliest of those starters, but they needed someone. And look, Spencer Rattler, I think, executes the offense a little bit better. He just does what he's supposed to. Where I think Tyler Shough, the experience probably hurt him, right? Lack of, and also just wanting to throw downfield. Where I think Rattler will at least take the checkdowns. Good news if you have Kamara on your team. I think it's not very helpful for the wide receivers, regardless of who was the winning guy here. But it definitely would say it helps Chris Olave a little bit more if you're invested in him at all. Like if you want to be out, that's totally fine. But Rashid Shaheed is a guy coming off injury and is a little bit more big play dependent. So you probably are not wanting to consider him all that much here. But this is really good for Kamara in the check down. Juwan Johnson, just a hard person to trust, even when all the things are right for him at tight end. So really, unfortunately or fortunately, how you want to look at it, there's not a lot of reason to invest in the Saints. So you might just do what we've been saying. Alvin Kamara, he's going to get a lot of receptions, and then Kendre Miller on standby if they have to turn to him as well in a complementary power role. So I think that's where I would go with this team. That's about it, regardless of the QB. But I think Rattler starting definitely helps Kamara see the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, I will say that Olave did only play 1 game that Spencer Rattler started. Now, I guess technically he played 2, but he played 2 snaps in one of the games. And he did, in that one game with Rattler, he did have 14 targets, 8 receptions, 107 yards, 14.7 points and half PPR without a touchdown. Like, that's pretty good. Kamara played that first stint with him. So Rattler started 3 games in week 6 through 8, and then again 3 games week 16 through 18. Those were his 6 games played. Kamara was on the field for those first 3 games, saw 11 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets with Rattler. So that's good. And his fantasy points were all right for 2 of the 3 games. But then the week 16 through 18, he didn't have Olave. He didn't have Kamara. No wide receiver had more than 33 yards in any game. But I don't think it's really, we can't really look at that because his top 2 weapons weren't there. So it might not be the worst thing ever. I mean, it's going to be terrible for the Saints. They're going to lose a ton of games, but it might not be the worst thing in terms for fantasy. Now, Adam Thielen got traded to the Vikings, so he's back in Minnesota. I do think this gives him more fantasy value being in Minnesota, at least for the first few weeks with Jordan Addison out, because it seems like the Panthers really want to go to the younger route, right? They're starting over here. They're trying to build around Bryce Young, but like in the correct way with young guys around him. But does this hurt Jordan Addison when he comes back now? Because he's already missing the first 3 games. And you're like, okay, well, he'll come back and be the second target, or TJ Hawkinson, but at worst he'd be the third. But could Adam Thielen really like steal those end zone, especially red zone targets from him?
Yeah, that's going to be something to watch. It's definitely going to hurt the combined production of TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison because they're both inside type receivers. Now, Thielen has the ability to line up outside when needed, and Jordan Addison can do that as well. So they might change up the looks here as we go forward. But we also don't know exactly how much Adam Thielen has left in the tank. This could be just his way of getting to Minnesota so he can make sure he retires as a Viking. I think he's just been a lifelong Minnesota guy. It just seemed weird that he was in Carolina for a short period of time. But when we look at it, I wouldn't worry too much. Again, Jordan Addison's another hard one with the suspension, but at least he's coming back a little bit sooner, and he can be rather productive as a wide receiver 3. I think that's a built-in thing here. But I think Thielen obviously was a good move, knowing what's going on with Addison in the early part of the season. They didn't really have anyone to fill that void. So the thing we're going to watch, it might be work in progress, right? If there's a thing with J.J. McCarthy and Adam Thielen that develops, I mean, that could change things a little bit the way we're looking at it. For right now, the chemistry is between Addison and Hawkinson and McCarthy because they've been out there on the field with him. But yeah, Thielen might have some sneaky value in the right matchups early in the season as long as Addison is out. But when Addison comes back, yeah, I definitely think it's going to hurt the touchdown and the reception inside potential, both Hawkinson and Addison, unfortunately. So this is why we wait on drafts, because things can alter things so quickly, and then we're seeing that in Minnesota.
Yeah, and you brought up Jalen Coker as a deep sleeper wide receiver you're really liking, and this only helps his potential more, right? We saw him have some solid games towards the end of last year. He's now going to step into the starting role with Adam Thielen gone. So definitely will help him out. And then maybe Xavier Legette can break out too this year. But Jalen Coker is a guy that he's been showing a strong connection with Bryce Young towards the end of last year and then also this offseason. So definitely keep him in mind late in your drafts. Now, Marquez Valdes-Scantling was cut by the Seahawks. This is only like big news because Torrey Horton, like the rookie that I had as a deep sleeper, he's going to start right away. And Sam Darnold needs more than just Jackson Smith and the Jigba to throw to. And I know Cooper Kupp's there too, but whatever. I do think Torrey Horton, like this bumps him up, just knowing you're safe, that he doesn't have to compete with him for snaps. Now, MVS ended up signing with the 49ers. And with everyone injured there, Ayuk and Jacob Collins got put on the PUP list. Juwan Jennings is questionable for week 1 per John Lynch. He said he's hopeful he can play, but not sure. Is there something there that maybe MVS could have some big games to start the year if Jennings misses time?
Yeah, let's see how that alignment works out. I mean, MVS does an important thing that Brock Purdy does well. I mean, in combination, MVS can stretch the field. Brock Purdy is a very good field stretching quarterback. So there's that, but I think he'll be that occasional big play threat. I don't see him being forced in there as much. Like, I don't think he's a direct replacement or anything for Jennings, at least early. So I think this is still going to be okay with our George Kittle and Ricky Purcell stock. So don't worry too much about that. They're just trying to get someone healthy out there in San Francisco. Keep that in mind. Everyone is dropping like flies. So they just needed somebody. And when I say somebody, it's somebody where is not beat up that can actually do something and do something within the basis of their offense. So an MVS can certainly do that. I mean, he's kind of been in that type of offense with different teams, right, over the course of his career, including Matt LaFleur. So I think he could seamlessly fit in, but he's going to be a dark throw. As usual, if he can make a big play in a matchup, you go there. But let's see how the depth chart plays out and the usage is early.
All right, let's take another break. And then when we come back, we're going to go through a bunch of injury updates that could have a big impact. And you're going to want to know these before you draft for your fantasy teams this weekend.
This episode, Locked On Fantasy Football, is brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra, Cialis. Maybe you even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer for you. More than 150,000 men have already made the switch. And again, if you don't want to go in without knowing what other people are saying, you can do that. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. All you do is head to rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. That's Rugiet. Use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. It's RUGIET, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL, and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. This episode, Locked On Fantasy Football, also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. We know the NFL season is almost here, just a week away, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. It's really fun to play there. Makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keep an eye on your fantasy lineup. Quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays or Thursdays or Fridays or whenever they're playing NFL this season. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, only at FanDuel.com. All right, Michelle, let's wrap up looking at some news and notes. We're waiting still on what's going on with Jacoby Myers. He still asked for trade as they brought in Amari Cooper into the situation. So let's see how that plays out. But there's some injury updates we also have to get into. Number one, Matthew Stafford. That's a big one for our shares of Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. So, Michelle, what is the latest that you're hearing and we've heard on Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, so the Athletics' Jordan Rodriguez believes that Matthew Stafford's back injury is going to be a thing that may be managed throughout the entire season, which he's dealt with injuries like this a lot. But, I mean, one bad hit, right, could knock him out. And they faced a lot of physical teams early on in the season, like the Texans, the Eagles, the 49ers, the Ravens. These are teams that hit and hit hard. That scares me for Matthew Stafford. I'm definitely 100% staying away from him in fantasy. But now it just comes down to, are we too worried about this with Puka and with Kyren Williams and with Davante Adams? I do think it forces me to, like, when I'm looking at Puka or Nico Collins, like, I just go the Nico Collins way, right? Or if I'm close on two guys, I'm just going to go the opposite of what the Rams are because it's so risky with Stafford right now.
Yeah, I think I feel okay about Davante Adams, but Puka might be a little bit more hurt by that if Stafford's not out there. Adams just gets it done with anybody, and you love or hate what he did with Jimmy Garoppolo with the Raiders, but he is a guy that's going to get it done. He's just professional to do that. So I'm not as worried there. Now, with really Adams, I am worried about Stafford. I did like him late, but I can't really buy into it. A pocket passer who's getting hurt. Now, Jaden Reed is back in practice. He's up in the air to play in week One, we know that Christian Watson is on the PUP list. Matthew Golden, are you getting more excited about Golden at all with these pieces of news?
I mean, he's going to have the shot to break out immediately. If Jaden Reed is out week 1, I mean, who are these targets going to? I guess maybe Romeo Doubs is a sleeper for week 1. But yeah, I mean, Matthew Golden, if he is going to be good in this league, he has a chance immediately. Like, the opportunity is the first part of anyone breaking out, right? And then also talent has to come involved too. But we'll see what happens there. But he probably is going too late in drafts. I mean, when I was naming, the guys like Cooper Kupp and Chris Godwin and Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, Golden's right in that group with them. It goes Kupp, Golden, Godwin, Juwan Jennings, and ADP right now. So I do think that's too low for Matthew Golden, who is going to get this opportunity.
Yeah, he's a first-round pick. Don't forget about that. I mean, they want to get him on the field. They don't take first-round picks very easily in Green Bay on wide receivers. So they're going to give him every shot, especially if the situation lining up where Watson is out for a while and Reed also is going to have this chronic issue. Now, Devin Achane, good to go in week 1. Jalen Wright going surgery here. So not only did he have a bad preseason, but Ollie Gordon, again, looks like for a while he'll be Achane's number 2.
Yeah, he'll be Achane's number 2, and I think he's going to get on the field. So it's not going to be just a backup for Achane. Like, I think it won't be a split backfield. Achane will still get a ton of work, but I do think Ollie Gordon's going to be involved. And then if Achane has to miss any time, definitely interesting guy to keep an eye on. Now, Tajay Spears for the Titans got placed on IR with a designation to return. So we'll see if and when he comes back. But I've already been talking up Tony Pollard. He was one of my guys that I'm willing to die on the hill for this year. And I think he has to keep moving up the ranks now that Tajay Spears is completely out of the question. He already had 301 touches last year, the 9th most in the NFL. And you're talking about this offense should be better with Cam Ward. And he's competing with a 6th-round rookie running back in Khalil Mullings and then Julius Chestnut. Like, Tony Pollard is going to have this entire backfield to himself.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to quit on the Tajay Spears, whatever train, if it was a train, if it was just a caboose, something like that. But everyone needs to get off of it. It's over. He just can't stay healthy. He's too small, and small backs tend to struggle to stay on the field, whether it's in practice or in games. Now, another injury, I mean, it's not for someone we would really put on a radar to draft a lot. Cade Otton, he was okay. It was a tight end 14 on average last year, but not all that exciting. But a leg injury, he could miss some games. Is this lining up pretty much? I mean, Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan are hurt. Is this really putting you strong on Emeka Egbuka after Mike Evans?
Yeah, I mean, Emeka Egbuka is a great pick right now, definitely in drafts, and he's going pretty late too, much later than he should. But it is making me a little bit worried about Baker Mayfield, that all of his weapons keep falling off. I mean, we're talking about how stacked this offense was going to be, and now he still has Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka and Bucky Irving. Like, he still has enough, but I mean, losing Chris Godwin to start the year, Jalen McMillan's going to be gone for a while. And if Cade Otton has to miss time, it's like Cade Otton was the guy that Baker leaned on when these guys were missing time last year. So it is a little scary. And then, the start of the schedule for the Buccaneers, a lot of tough secondary. So the first week is going to be great against Falcons. Super excited about that. But then the Texans, the Jets, the Eagles, the Seahawks, some of the best secondaries in the league, that gets a little scary.
Yeah, for sure. And again, yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield, look, maybe we're just putting too much into last year with where he's ranked. I mean, but it just is such an interesting drop-off there. I mean, really, you're debating, where do I cut it off? Is it right after Burrow with Mayfield? Do I just wait for Purdy? Do I look at any of the guys in the middle that we talk about, Dak Prescott and Tyler Murray and Bo Nix? It's really hard here. But, yeah, Baker Mayfield, it's a little bit buyer beware, especially with Liam Cohen now in Jacksonville. Last piece of news, Isaiah Likely looks like he's going to be available. This is more buying into the fact here that he is going to be available. Mark Andrews, look, early, potentially could still see a little bit more value. But I'm actually just worried about the direction of the offense in general with Andrews, just like spreading it around to more receivers. So, again, then when Likely comes back and Andrews is still getting some wear, like, this actually could kind of hurt both tight ends in the end.
Yeah, I mean, so he wasn't placed on the PUP list. So that means, it doesn't mean he'll be back to start the season. He's still expected to miss some games, but it does mean that they don't plan him to miss the full 4 weeks, right? So he should be back sooner than week 4. As long as Likely's out, I do think Mark Andrews will be heavily utilized, get way more snaps, way more targets. But, it's only going to be for a short time. And then Andrews is going to have to split time again and all that. So I'm not really moving Andrews up because of this news. Now, if he was placed on the PUP list, then maybe I would have. But because he was not, we expect him back after a couple weeks. So not going to move it for me. That will be it for today's episode. But I have an announcement for you. It's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. We will be back talking with you tomorrow. Enjoy your night. Bye, y'all.